What's up, guys? Welcome to Biggie Built again. Today, in this episode, I'm going to be chasing down a coolant leak, trying to figure out where it's coming from. Bunch of cool little steps. If you guys are stuck on some things, that this will help you out with. So stay tuned and let's see where this coolant leak's coming from. A little backstory. I'm going to put in the next clip a picture of what happened and just a quick voiceover with what we're going to do about it. So enjoy. So I was at a light today and I saw steam coming from the left side of my hood, and I immediately knew, based on previous experience, that I had a coolant leak. So I turn right at the light, pull into a parking lot, and as I'm pulling in, it's just flowing out. I don't know how it's coming out so fast, but I knew I'm going to get to the bottom of it one way or another. So let's see. All right, guys. Another day, another coolant leak. Gonna bring you guys along with me live to see how we're gonna figure this out and get to the bottom of it. First things first, I opened it up right here earlier when I saw all the steam and I didn't know where it was coming from. Started working my way from here. Yeah, don't mind all the white. I had this coolant hose right here, this one, blow on me, and I replaced that, but I never cleaned it up. This might be leaking, I don't know, we'll see, but that's not the issue. The issue is somewhere under there, right under there. So we'll start taking this apart and let's get to it. First steps first, get in the trunk, disconnect the battery. It's a 10 millimeter, just one nut, super easy. And then I'm gonna come around here and I'm gonna take off each one of these. I'm gonna pause right here and say it's very important to take this ECU out along with the bracket because it makes it much, much easier and gives you more room to work with. So these are the ECU connectors. Kind of put them to the side. It's super easy. I'm doing it one-handed, but you just push down on this little clip. You can even do it with one hand. Push, and you pull this. Yeah, my wires are a bit exposed, don't mind that. Just age of the car, 117,000 miles, still kicking. And then once the last one is out, there's two little tabs on the right side of the ECU. As you can see back there. So you're gonna pull both of these and then the ECU comes right out. Two tabs, jiggles right out. There's your ECU. Next step, now that the ECU is out, I'm gonna take this bracket off. It's two 10 millimeters, one back there and one up here. But to do that, you have to remove all these power connectors down here. So there's 3, 4, 5. First one comes out, you pull the red thing. Once you pull it out, it should just come straight up. That's the first one. And there's the connector right next to it. Also gonna add right here, the easiest way to get them off if they're stuck is to put a pick tool right under here and just pry it up and it should pop right out. Just don't apply too much pressure or you'll break it. All right, this is what the ECU is held in by. This is the power distribution right here. Those 5 plugs. You have a much more accessible point down there now. Let me put this in the trunk and keep moving. Much more accessible now down here. I see more white on the oil filter housing, so I'm gonna keep moving. Next steps is gonna be to clean up this manifold a little bit, get this manifold pulled off, and then after the manifold's cleaned up, there's 2 holding it in place, one there, one back there. They're external Torx, and then under here you have 2 lines that go to each one. Take them off. There's a little retaining clip in each one, and you have to pull those out. But I'm gonna have to finagle with that to get them out, so give me just a second. So at this point, after I removed those two external Torx bolts and then the, I think 7 or 8 10 mils that are holding the manifold in, you just pull it straight up and out after removing those two coolant lines at the bottom, which isn't hard at all. I mean, you just have to pull those little C-clips out and work from there, but they just pull right out. And from there, I started looking around and I was like, oh, it doesn't look like anything. So I went and bought this. Found it. That's crazy. Look at that. Heater hose. Alright, so I didn't record that part, but I bought a Harbor Freight pressure tester. It was like 90 bucks. Put water in there, pressurized it, and I heard whistling from the back in the firewall, like right there. So I track it down to this hose, and it looks like the steering rack was rubbing up on it, and it made a hole right here. This was the part number for my specific car, but if you go on Real OEM and you input your VIN, you can figure out what's the one for yours. But I did decide not to go with that because local BMW dealer was $130 and I wanted the car back tonight. So I decided just to go on the DIY route. All right, so I decided not to buy a new hose, but this is the part that I cut out of it that was broken. So I cut the hose in the car, and then I cut it right after, and then I cut it right before too. And then in between, I put this. I'll tag the part number down below. But it's just a heater hose connector from AutoZone. And these AutoZone hose clamps on there, and it's tight. Like
that's what she said.
It's a real tight fit, 3/4 times 3/4. So this is the firewall end. It's gonna go into the firewall, and then that's gonna go to the other end of the hose. And this gap in the middle is perfect for the amount that I cut out, basically. So it's gonna work out perfectly. I'm pretty sure. Let's see. All right, now that we got that heater hose back in, you can see it down there, how it is the final product. Now that connector is there in place, and that's where it busted earlier. So should be all good now, all tightened up. That's a real snug fit, by the way. Got that back there, plugged into the firewall as well. And I might zip tie that connector up to this coolant, or to this AC pipe as well, just for so it doesn't happen again. I don't know, feel better like that. But yeah, gonna put the intake manifold back on, and I always make sure everything's out of the way first before continuing, and making sure I didn't forget anything. Might take a break first before I continue, but yeah. And then for these are the two that are on the bottom of the intake manifold. I always make sure the clips are in the down position or open position, and then, I mean, last time I did it, they slipped right on. Time before that took me 2 days, but hopefully we'll be good. All right, got the manifold back on now. Now to start buttoning everything up. Oh my goodness, what a freaking is. But I'm gonna start with the manifold bolts up here at the top. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7's hidden back there. And that's just your typical 10mm. Very easy. But what I like to do is, when I get on the bolt, I back it out a little bit and make sure it's seated in there correctly. And then when I know it's seated correctly, then when I back it up to make sure it doesn't strip, I just hand tighten it. All right, on the next step, I just got the ECU mount back in, and I got those 5 power distribution connectors in. They only go in one way, so you can't mess them up. You got 1, 2, 3, 4 looks a little different, and then 5 is that circular one. Now ECU goes in, and get the 5 cables on top of the ECU plugged in. All right, So now we got an aerial view of what's going on here. I'm gonna move everything to the side, make sure nothing's down there. It's gonna affect the ECU going in. Get that out of the way. Okay. And then when you put it in, you put fin side towards the motor. And it should just slide right in if you get it in these little grooves, but sometimes it likes to have a mind of its own. All right, let's put these 5 on. They all go a certain way, so what I figured out is the easiest, since I didn't mark them, is to go through and see which one goes where. So that's number 3. So I'll leave that one to the side. All right, so I had my buddy Sean bring some coolant for me, and for these cars at BMW, they recommend for you to vacuum fill it, but I have a couple friends that work at BMW, and they say if you don't have a vacuum filling machine, the best thing to do is fill it up, let it idle, and when it starts dropping, that's when you add more. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to add, let it suck in, start the car, and just let it idle and go from there. So I'm going to leave this open, and then I'm going to start it and just let it idle. So let's see if this first start is good. Battery's connected. Let's go. So this is the next thing I'm doing now. After I let it idle for about 5 minutes, I'm holding the RPMs at 2,000 just to let that coolant circulate and see if it requires more, which it's going to. Just take it on a test drive. Looks like it's holding temperature right where it needs to be. And yeah, we're gonna see what happens. I'm gonna let it idle for a little longer and then check the coolant level again and top it up if it needs it, and if not, then go to sleep. It's been a long evening. But yeah, guys, at the end of the day, this was a DIY on how to fix coolant hoses, not just the heater hose. You could use that for any other type of hose. You just got to make sure that connector is the same and it has that gap in the middle. So if you guys enjoyed the video, throw a like, comment, subscribe to the channel for more videos on DIY repair on the G30 platform.